All right, what is up? What's going on? I really think this video, obviously, we're just focusing on the prediction of now that the group stage all wrapped up and we're going to the knockout rounds. I'm just going to go ahead and go through each game one at a time. With that being said, I just want to talk about the group stage a little bit before we get into it. I think it was a fairly straightforward group stage. A lot of the teams that we expected to progress did progress through to the next round. Maybe that's a factor of it being a larger World Cup with more teams than ever before, so it allowed a lot less. There was no real group of death, really. There wasn't one group that you looked at and it's like, oh, shoot, so and so is going to get knocked out super early. Or one of those two teams aren't going to make it through just because of the difficulty of the group. A lot of the favorites did make it through. Arguably, the only real upset is the Turkey. You kind of expected Turkey to make it through, looking at the group with the United States, of course, Paraguay, and Australia. So you think Turkey's going to be a favorite in that group before the World Cup started, and that was obviously kind of the expectation amongst everybody watching. And then they just had a bad World Cup. They had a bad group stage, dropped points early. United States played their first two games really well, so they had the group wrapped up before they even had to play the Turkey game, and it allowed the United States to rest. And even though they lost that game, I think it was really good actually for a lot of the players that didn't get a ton of play time to have the opportunity to go out play against top level European competition. Obviously, it's not the best team ever with your Turkey getting grouped, but still, the way that we played against Paraguay and Australia, we dominated that group. Obviously, going a little tangent because USA, because I like them. So I didn't really do a recap to the USA Turkey game. I just didn't think it was very important. I mean, you can go out there and make a bunch of bold claims that it's like, oh, this loss is devastating for momentum, or oh, this is actually super important and good for the bench players to get that experience. I tend to lean more that way. I don't really think losing that game matters too much. Obviously, we already had it wrapped up. Turkey's doing something for their pride, so they're going to go out there and try and play as hard as they can. They benched a few of their starters, but for the most part, it was a solid Turkey A group, and it was our entire B team essentially, besides McKinney and a couple other players. So that game didn't matter too much, but getting in, focusing more on the World Cup, I think as a whole, a good group stage. Really a lot of exciting games. Obviously, a couple teams dropped points here or there. Portugal obviously dropping points in their first game. Belgium dropped points. That Belgium side, obviously, their most recent game, they looked pretty good. They looked like a solid team. They looked like they were starting to get it figured out, which is kind of scary as a USA fan because, in theory, if we can get past Bosnia, Belgium would most likely be our next opponent. So hopefully they don't get a ton of momentum if the United States is fortunate to get through to that round. But regardless, we're going to go ahead and jump into this World Cup predictor here. I think another note as we kind of get going is I think it is unfortunate to not do goal difference and instead do head-to-head, just because when you do that head-to-head, a lot of the third games didn't even matter. Like the United States, really in a traditional tournament, would have had to worry about that third game against Turkey, and it would have been a lot more exciting. And a lot of teams did that. Argentina's third game didn't matter, so they benched Messi. Like because it's the head-to-head matchup, the groups were decided before the third game in a lot of situations, which is really unfortunate. And it shouldn't be like that in a World Cup. Every game should matter. Every game should be important. Goal difference should matter. It should matter whether or not you're playing good defense. If you're letting in a ton of goals, but you scrape by with a 1-0 win, and then lose 7-0, that should impact your chances to make it. So I really think that is something that in the future World Cups they should address because it did kind of dumb down the intrigue on the third game in the group stage. Not for everybody. Obviously, some teams, if they drop points their first two games, still had an opportunity to make up for it. But I actually think because it's head-to-head and not goal difference, there was less opportunity for those teams to make it up. So that's a bit unfortunate. But jumping straight into the knockout here, I think obviously at the time of recording this, South Africa and Canada already played. Canada was able to win that game in the 92nd minute, I believe. So they're going to get an automatic advance, of course, because they made it. So let's just jump back to the top here. We got Germany, Paraguay. I expect Germany to win that game fairly comfortably. I think they've just got a really solid offense. I've been worried about their defense, and they haven't really played anyone super difficult or scary. So I expect Germany to progress past Paraguay. Paraguay, again, the United States kind of dominated them. They played fine enough to progress to the next stage, but Australia came second, Paraguay third. They were just one of those third place teams that advanced. But yeah, I wasn't super impressed by Paraguay. I definitely think Germany's going to progress there. France, Sweden. I actually think Sweden's fairly fortunate to have progressed through. I think France is a much better team. They're definitely going to win this. They're right now the betting favorites to win it all. They look so good. I mean, their front three players, and then also Elise, and then once you make the subs coming under Doué and Cherki, it's unfair. France is just such a fantastic team. They might have a little bit of defensive shortcomings, but that's only compared to the rest of their team. That's not compared to the rest of the World Cup. So I really think France is going to win that comfortably. South Africa, Canada. Obviously, Canada already won that. Netherlands, Morocco. That game plays later today. And I think this is going to be a very tough game. I like Netherlands. I think, of course, Cody Gakpo having the outside of the game kind of stuff going on. I think he's going to be playing with a lot of determination, a lot of heart. So I think Netherlands is my favorite there. Obviously, I think Morocco is a good team. I think they've got good experience. This really could be a Morocco win here, but I feel like Netherlands is playing for a little bit more than football today. So that's why I'm going to go with Netherlands. We're going to go Portugal, Croatia. This is tough. I have not been super impressed by Portugal, to be honest with you. I think Portugal's been fine. They dropped points, obviously, in their first game against Congo. Again, Ronaldo scored 2 goals in the second game. That's good. It's really a Band-Aid on an amputation wound. Like, they have a real big issue in Portugal, which is they're not sure what they want to do. They don't know how they want to play. They don't know if they're trying to force everything to Ronaldo, or some of the players, it feels like they're doing everything they can not to give the ball to Ronaldo. So they're in a difficult spot. That said, Croatia aren't super impressive right now. I think they've got a lot of age. They're developing. They're kind of going out of a golden era. Obviously, when they were able to come second a few years ago. But my money's going to be on Portugal here. I think. Oh man, actually, that's a tough one. I'm going to go with Portugal just because they were my favorites before the season, before the World Cup started. We'll see if Croatia can do it. That's another one. I mean, these are 2 really close games. But Portugal, I think, just going to edge out Croatia a bit. Spain and Austria. Spain, I think they're starting to kind of get it, starting to click after their bad first game as well. I think it was kind of a pride thing by their manager not starting their best lineup in their first game of the World Cup. But they're starting to get it and starting to click a bit more. So I'm going with Spain there. United States, Bosnia. It's going to be a good test. I think United States are going to go through. I think because of the form that they have, because they have the home field advantage, because there's so much energy around them right now. Everyone's healthy. Pulisic is back fully healthy. So my money's going to be on the United States to pass Bosnia. Bosnia is a good team, but they just don't have anybody that super impresses me. I think it's a team that United States can get past. Obviously, Dzeko is a fantastic legend, but he's just past it. And I think they're a solid team. They're one of those teams you look at, it's like, okay, they're disciplined and rigid, and they have 11 B-plus level players, but they just don't have anyone to get them over the edge. And I think with how the United States is playing, their confidence in the back, I think it's probably a 2-0 win for the United States. So that brings us on here to Belgium and Senegal, sorry. Belgium and Senegal. And then let me just get 1 second here. Let me just pull up the FootMob just so I can filter this. Just want a little bit more research here. Okay, sweet. Awesome. Okay, so Belgium and Senegal. I think, obviously, it does seem like Belgium's starting to get it figured out. Their most recent game, they looked really good. They were able to kind of start finishing things, putting it together. Obviously, Trossard had a great game, man of the match. I think Senegal's okay, but just before the World Cup, even losing to the United States, and I just don't know if they were super duper impressive to me. So, gonna go with Belgium there. Brazil, Japan. This is a tough game. I think really on paper, Brazil should be the heavy favorites. It's Brazil, of course, and they've got a lot of good talent. I might be Carlo Ancelotti's biggest hater in the world, actually. I don't like the way he sets up his team. I don't like the way he utilizes Endrick. I think Endrick should be starting in these games, not only for long-term experience, but I think he's got the it factor that Matheus Cunha just doesn't have. And also Ryan. Like, Ryan's a great player for Bournemouth, but I don't think he's good enough. So I think it's difficult for a Brazil team that plays like 11 individual players to be going up against Japan, who's such a unit, and they're so rigid and they play so perfectly together. They all intertwine. They know exactly where they're going to be. Such a disciplined group. So it's difficult for me to see Brazil just having an easy game here. I think they have a lot more talent and ability, and I think in the World Cup they play with a lot more heart. Don't get me wrong, I could definitely see a world where Japan upset Brazil, but I think just because of individual talent, I think Brazil is going to come out ahead there. That game's on in like 20 minutes. And then Ivory Coast and Norway. This is a good game. Ivory Coast has been playing very well. I like Norway. I like what they're doing. I think Norway is going to just have a bit of an edge. I think Holland is just so hard to defend. I don't think Ivory Coast have the defense to keep up with Holland. I think he'll do a good job there. He'll probably get a goal or two. That brings us on to Mexico, Ecuador. Ecuador has been having a fantastic cup, and I've been seeing a ton of praise for this Mexico team, and I do think they've been playing well. That said, I think Ecuador actually have it. I think they have just so much consistency throughout their team, and I think Mexico's been benefiting from a fairly easy group. And, obviously you could make the same argument for the United States, but if we're just looking like purely based off the knockout stages, South Africa was probably one of the worst teams I watched in the World Cup, and they came second in their group. South Korea, extremely disappointing group stage. They completely underdelivered. And Czechia, obviously last in their group. I think this is a super easy group. I really think Mexico benefited from it. I think once they come up against a better team, I think they're going to get knocked out. So I'm going to go with Ecuador there. And let me just scroll down here to find Ecuador's group real fast. Ooh, did I swing by it? Yeah, I did. Where are we going? Okay, Germany, Ivory Coast. Curacao is obviously not fantastic, but this is a hard group. And the fact that they still made it through, got 4 points, enough to push through. They got the win and the draw. I like Ecuador a lot more. I think they're going to make it through. I think they got more quality. I think they played harder competition, so they're already pushing themselves. And yeah, I see Mexico dropping there. England, Democratic Republic Congo. Obviously, I think England's going to make it through here. Congo had a great World Cup. I mean, they should be very, very happy with themselves. They played great. They were the highest ranked third place team, I believe. So they did a really good job. It stinks to come up against England in the first round, but I think England's got a lot more quality. And I think a bit of that, the Congo magic's going to run out a little bit. And then we get down to the final quadrant here. Argentina and Cape Verde. I think obviously Argentina are going to win that very comfortably. Cape Verde, I mean, they were signing players off LinkedIn, so it's a fantastic story for them that they even progressed out of their group. But definitely Argentina is the favorite, if not second, right behind France. They've been playing fantastic. Messi's on fire. Even in a game where Messi doesn't start, he comes on, scores a free kick goal. So they're just doing so well. Australia, Egypt. This feels like a very interesting matchup for both of these teams. It's kind of funny because if you look at the rest of the group, you'd almost rather the United States have been second in their group. If you look at the rest of these, obviously they'd have to come up against Argentina, but that's a different conversation if that's better than Spain or Portugal. Regardless, Australia, Egypt, this is tough because Australia has been such a physical team. I think Egypt has a bit more quality. Mohamed Salah, Marmoush is going to pop up. I think Egypt's going to be my pick there over Australia, even though Australia, a little salty with how much they talked, and then the United States obviously put the two past them. So that brings us on to Switzerland, Algeria. Another good game. I think I'm going to go Algeria here. I like Switzerland. I like their team. I think Algeria's just got a little more pizzazz. I think Mahrez is starting to find form a little bit. They scraped through, but they made it through. So I'm going to go with Algeria. That's definitely a bit of an upset. But I feel confident in Algeria the way that they're playing right now. Obviously, they're a third place team. Let's find Switzerland real quick. They topped their group, Switzerland, with Canada, Bosnia, and Qatar. But I'm not super impressed with anyone in that group. I think Switzerland, they're a fine group of players, but I think nothing super crazy there. So I am going to be going with Algeria over Switzerland. That's definitely an upset, but I like Algeria. I like their players, and they've come through a lot more competition. Colombia, Ghana. This is a good game. Definitely going to go Colombia. I think Colombia has been playing fantastic. I think they're in a really good group, and they played really well. They just got a lot of heart and a lot of good players. Moving on to the round of 16. Now, arguably, this is where the tournament really gets going. Not because there's not a lot of good teams in the 32, But just because since it is a bigger World Cup, this is traditionally where the knockouts would start as 16 teams instead of 32 teams. So in theory, this is kind of be the traditional start of the knockouts. So Germany, France. This is really tough. I think France just has so much more quality going forward, and Germany lacks defensively. I think France is a really dominant force here. Canada, Netherlands. I think Netherlands comfortably beat Canada. I don't even think that would be close. I think that would be an easier game than Morocco for them. Portugal, Spain. This is tough because initially Portugal was my pre-tournament favorite. But the way that they look, I mean, unless they can figure out what to do going forward, I think I'm going to have to go with Spain to knock Portugal out there. They're a complete team. Their midfield, initially, it's so funny before the season, everyone said Portugal's midfield 3. I mean, Vitinha, João Neves, Bruno Fernandes, even Bernardo Silva, like such good creativity and ball possession in the midfield, but they've been playing very poor together. They've not been working well. They've not been linking the midfield to the defense. They've not been able to find consistent balls through to Ronaldo. The wingers have been letting the team down. João Felix done some interesting things, but nothing too crazy. So I am going to go with Spain over Portugal. United States over Belgium. This is really, really difficult. Very unfortunate that we would have to go up against Belgium. That said, Belgium's not been the most interesting team. They've really struggled at times. They had one good game in their group. KDB's got to be so frustrated with some of the balls that he plays through that there's just no one on the other side of to finish. I would think Lukaku should be starting. Obviously, he's a bit older, but he's there where Kevin De Bruyne's putting the ball when no one else would be there. So not having those two linking up, I think, is hurting them a lot. Do I back the United States over Belgium? It seems like very difficult to say. I think United States is in better form. That's so obviously controversial and is going to come across very biased. Looking at the players, though, I think United States has a more complete team. If we can do something to lock down Jeremy Doku, and if Chris Richards can dominate whoever's playing up top for them. And then I think the most important matchup in the United States-Belgium game really would be Tyler Adams. If Tyler Adams can do anything to get even just 50% Kevin De Bruyne, that would be massive for us because I think Kevin De Bruyne's obviously still the most important player for Belgium by far, besides maybe Doku, who's up there as well. We got Brazil and Norway. This would be a good match. I think, oh man, probably Brazil's going to just have a lot more intensity, fire, like I said in the first round going forward. I'm going to go with Brazil over Norway there. Brings us to Ecuador and England. I think England, again, just a lot of, I think they want it. I think they're ready to push deep into a World Cup again and really make a good run. So I'm going to go with England over Ecuador there. I think the midfield's just been kind of hitting its stride. Although last game, benching Declan Rice, having, Jude Bellingham really have to step up, get a goal and an assist to push them through. But Jude Bellingham did it. He stepped up. He got it, and he played fantastic. So if they can continue to play that well, I don't see them getting stopped by many teams. But again, very, very interesting. Let's pull up this last match because it was just very fascinating lineup. In theory, this is probably the lineup that I would be going with, although to have Elliot Anderson play the majority of the game and have Declan Rice on the bench, very, very interesting decision for me. Obviously, it worked out. They played well. There's just so much talent on the bench here. But yeah, no, so that was an interesting decision. Let's see if they continue to keep this formation. I really liked it. Maybe Morgan Rogers would be subbed in a different world, and you would let I don't even know. But they all played well. Let's see if they keep this going forward. My money's still going to be on England over Ecuador, though. Argentina over Egypt. Yeah, that probably makes sense to me. Argentina's just in such good form. Algeria, Colombia. Probably Colombia is a more complete team at the moment. So that brings us back up to the quarterfinals, which is going to be France versus Netherlands. I think France probably going to win that. Spain versus the United States. I unfortunately think this is where the United States, if they are able to get past Belgium, where they would fall short is against Spain. Then we have Brazil and England. Another great matchup. I put England there. I think they have a bit more completion to them. I think Harry Kane's hitting his form. I think Brazil just, again, a little too much individuality, not enough cohesion. I don't think Carlo Ancelotti has a system that develops what works with players very well unless they're already in a system. He can come in and maintain egos and get cohesion out of a group, but he doesn't have a technical style, I think, that works well enough in this competition to beat England. Argentina versus Colombia. I think Argentina would be winning there. So that brings us to the semifinal, which would be France versus Spain and England versus Argentina. Man, this is a lot of good matchups. I mean, obviously, once you get down to it, it's going to be all good teams. I'm going to go with France beating Spain, putting them in their third straight World Cup final. And then I think England would beat Argentina. That's obviously would be an upset, but I just think Argentina's defensive line is a little bit older now. They play with a lot of grit, but I think England has the midfield that can deal with cutting off a ton of options for Messi. And I think going forward, they can overpower defensively. They can overpower Argentina's defense and really press. So that gives us a France-England final. Who do we think would be pulling it home? France is so good. They have so much ability. England won it. They're also a very well put together team. It's just a matter of, do I think Thomas Tuchel can get enough out of them to put them past France? You know what? Let's do it. Let's go out on a limb. Let's say England are our winner. England win the World Cup. It comes home first time after 60 years. 66 years, 60 years. And yeah, there we go. That's going to be obviously a huge upset there. Let's see what happens. Obviously, great games coming up ahead. Can't wait to keep watching it. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know if you agree, that you think it's coming home, or if you think France just have too much ability, too much power, too much consistency with the same manager and group for so long that they win it. And they get their comeback after losing last year in the final, so last World Cup. All right, thanks for watching.